This diagram represents the classical sonnet, the most mathematically rigid container in traditional English poetry. To function, the form requires exactly 14 lines, a structured rhythmic meter, and a predictable acoustic rhyme scheme. In the Petrarchan tradition, these lines are physically divided into two distinct blocks, the 8-line octet and the 6-line sestet. The entire structure pivots on line 9. This is the volta, the dramatic turn where the logic or narrative direction of the poem shifts. This functions as a logical sequence. The octet introduces a problem, the volta shifts the perspective, and the sestet delivers a rational resolution. For centuries, poets used this specific architecture because the form promises the reader cognitive closure and a sense of absolute order. Eugene Cantrall's work utilizes 17th-century linguistic precision and 19th-century Gothic atmosphere. His poems explore existential ambiguity, liminal spaces, and the ticking of what he calls the mortal clock. Critics often assume that modern deviations from classical poetry are the result of loose or undisciplined craft. Cantrall's methodology suggests the opposite. He adopts the authoritative architecture of the sonnet, specifically to use its rules against the reader. We are going to trace his subtraction model, the process of stripping away the acoustic, logical, and physical foundations of the classical sonnet. The goal is to see how dismantling the mathematical rules of the sonnet creates a customized form for psychological entrapment. The first phase of this process is acoustic subversion. Look at the grade on the left compared to Cantrall's poem Beneath the Midnight Bloom. The text focuses on sensory dreams, the pools of Lethe, and a drifting state of consciousness. While Cantrall honors the physical 14-line boundary, he strips away the acoustic expectation of rhyme. He uses blank verse, maintaining the rhythmic heartbeat of iambic flow, but removing the conclusive endpoints of rhyming couplets. This creates a psychological friction. The eye recognizes the structural gravity of a sonnet, but the ear experiences a continuous, unsettled drifting. By removing acoustic resolution, Cantrall holds the reader in a state of suspension that mirrors the poem's themes of purgatory and sleep. Now, the second phase is logical subversion. In the poem How He Went Out, Cantrall presents the forensic aftermath of a violent, unexplained vanishing with no clear answers. As we see in this diagram, the octet of a Petrarchan sonnet is designed to present a specific problem or tension. Cantrall constructs this tension using physical clues: skids on the floor, a crimsoned toolbox, and a shattered casement window. The reader's expectation is that the sestet will provide a release, an explanation, or a definitive conclusion to these forensic details. Instead, he utilizes a modified Petrarchan structure. He concludes the sestet with a hollow wish: may answers arrive. The structure itself refuses to release the tension it generated. Cantrall uses the form to force the reader into the same lack of resolution and psychological frustration as the narrator. Finally, the last stage is physical subversion. In his occult and scrying poems like My Pendulum, Cantrall introduces a truly radical structural invention, the subsonnet. In this form, the poem is physically severed at 10 or 12 lines. Cantrall states that 14 lines are too many and simply announces it's a wrap. Why modify a sonnet in this way instead of writing free verse? His edit histories show that despite the amputation, Cantrall protects the traditional volta precisely at line 9. This creates cognitive dissonance. The reader is pushed over the dramatic cliff of the volta, but denied the physical lines required to process that shift. This physical amputation simulates the sudden, unexpected stopping of the mortal clock. When we overlay these three forms, blank verse, the modified Petrarchan, and the subsonnet, we see that they all align perfectly at line 9. These structures are the result of intentional metric engineering. These physical poetic structures connect directly to Eugene Cantrall's narrative settings: liminal spaces, decaying asylums, and haunted graveyards. His characters are trapped in spaces where the rules of reality no longer provide closure or safety. The manipulated sonnets do the same to the reader. They trap us in a classical structure that refuses to behave classically. Cantrall describes his structural mutations simply. It works is what matters. He creates this displacement not by abandoning literary rules, but by knowing exactly which classical constraints to break to leave readers alone in the dark.